The RAIC Downtown Charrette for Nanaimo was a collaboration between the Downtown Nanaimo Business Improvement Association and the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada. It brought together architects from across Canada to contribute to the design of the downtown. There were 6 downtown Charrette sites. They explored in detail how those sites could be redeveloped through a redesign and reconfiguration of the sites. A charrette is an intensive design opportunity that brings designers together, people from the community, as well as those with other interests in a very intensive redesign of a particular site. The theme for the charrettes was connections, the idea of connecting the sites one to each other and to the downtown, principally to the center of the downtown, which is Diana Krall Plaza.
The big issue with Nanaimo, of course, is the Terminal Avenue, Terminal Street here, which cuts the old historic residential area from the commercial area. So it would be nice to be able to get the A&B Sound site somehow as a way of transporting the residents that live here on Victoria Heights over to the drive where people can go shopping, and so therefore there'd be no need to drive. You could walk to Commercial Street in a comfortable way, and that's really the crux of the problem.
To the question of how can the A&B Sound building be more engaging in the short term, I think unfortunately right now it's really run down, and it would be interesting to see if there's any way to inhabit, at least visually in the short term, where the windows were, and maybe engage the artists of the community to see if that could become a display element, and maybe that way you can reintegrate some element of a program associated to the community into the building and give some type of a visual appeal to it. To the question of how can the A&B Sound site provide mixed-use development that supports people, places, and spaces, I think that's key to any urban development today, and it's really important to engage the street and the public space and understand the scale of the street. Commercial Street is quite a significant street for Nanaimo, and especially how it integrates to the corners. It seems like there's a strong nodal corridor with Terminal Avenue as well as with Wallace Street. So this is really a threshold site, so it's really important to understand the different views and how it connects to the adjacent streetscape, especially that there's such a significant grade change. So is there any way to create a connection, a pedestrian connection or a visual connection through the site and across to really start to connect to the various important elements that are on the street?
We are doing a design charrette for the waterfront in Nanaimo, and it's a major feature, it's very important features for the city. And the waterfront tends to be the place where people like to connect and to for leisure time. It's also for commercial activities and fishing and even tourists, not only for the locals. The major road in the waterfront will be reduced to 2 lanes rather than 4 lanes. That gives us opportunity to add more green spaces, walking spaces, and also for cycling.
Right now, there's too much conflict between cars and people, not enough green spaces, not enough people-oriented spaces. There are little routes to get from A to B, but nothing really great to bring Nanaimo and visitors down to the waterfront. Views are beautiful. We just got to clarify the connections and the spaces.
We're going to plan to hopefully bring the bicycles away from pedestrians so that they don't mix too hard, and bring the bikes up closer to the road, and then keeping the pedestrians down by the waterfront. Have to bring the services to the waterfront, not just restaurants. I think we need to bring people from Nanaimo shopping for their necessities every day, especially the large hotel or housing project that's to one side of the waterfront. We need to bring those people walking from their homes every day to buy their groceries so that it animates the waterfront, included with tourists. Giving back to nature as Indigenous people would do, instead of building more mass, more concrete, more asphalt into the water, we plan to take away more of that man-made structure and give back to the land. Let the land lap the waterfront and people can mix with them more.
We're looking at the China Steps. We've got several ideas. A movie theater wall on one of the buildings, and on the opposite side, a curved theater-type seating coming down, expanding the existing stairway, keeping it fairly hardscaped in the courtyard that's existing on Lois Lane, and kind of making it a softer connection walkway through the main point where actual China Steps is and where the existing building is going to be rebuilt. We're looking at creating another internal courtyard that's a lot more glazed, and in this new building would be more of a market kind of area, more of a concentration for artists and more low-cost housing and artist studios, those kinds of things.
So the idea for the building adjacent to the China Steps that was burnt down, we're thinking of doing an artist space, so we can create this area where all sorts of artists can come together, have studio space, have a gallery space, and also have, just open to the public to come and check them out and possibly sell their works. The China Steps have three kind of main areas that you enter into this central courtyard space. The one area that is a parking lot currently, we are contemplating turning that into a space for food trucks, potentially bike parking, also more green spaces, planters that really kind of define the space. And also it could be multi-use, so it could be for farmers markets or various events that are kind of needing an open space like that. Another area that is over closer to the Inland Island Highway is quite noisy, so we're hoping to just generate and maybe incorporate some planting, maybe some nice green screens. And then the third space directly across from the vault is where there's currently a history of China Steps and all the history of the fires. So we're thinking that really enhance the cultural identity of the space and the history in that area. So those would kind of define the three different entrances into the overall central courtyard.
The Diana Krall Plaza should be an interactive space, an installation to explore public awareness and public gathering.
The plaza should generate activity. It should be an active place. It should be an animated place. It should be a place of improvisation.
Diana Krall Plaza has no identity except for a tuning fork at the moment. And so really for it to be an iconic feature, it needs activity. So what we're doing today is exploring ways in which we can bring activity into the space and animate it, not just in a temporary basis, which is useful to some degree, but some activities that can be brought in that are ongoing, so everyday activities. Most of us feel is that the space is devoid of two main things: places to eat and places to shop, which maybe sounds strange because there's some shopping nearby, but of course this space has nothing, and so therefore we need to bring those things into this space. Activity is the key. Getting people to use the space on a daily basis is what makes great spaces work. And unfortunately, this space has two uses that are fairly closed off. One is a library that's quite insular, and one is an office space, which is quite insular. So therefore, at some point, either have to add to that or replace those uses and reanimate the space. And again, it's great to have temporary festivals and things like that in this space. They work on a temporary basis, but having people inhabit the space, shopping, eating, things like that is what's going to make it viable and sustainable. People want to be here. They want to go to and fro within the space. The space actually has a lot of opportunity. There's a waterfront view that is completely not used, and there's an airspace parcel out that side which is begging for a restaurant. Why someone hasn't taken that step yet is because the rest of the space needs that animation too. And so all of those opportunities for animation are essentially what we're trying to look at today.
An even stronger relationship between the plaza and the ocean. Nanaimo means gathering place, and this is a coming together of both the ocean, as I see it, and the forest, or the land. And this really is a point where these two can come together, and that should be celebrated.
We're working on the hotel site, and right now it has a great access off Museum Way, and that intersects with the rock face. So we've used that as a driver in establishing a plaza site and placing a hotel approximately with its main floor about 40 feet. So when you're on the street level, you can actually see the rock outcrop, and we're placing the building above that. And underneath it, creating a plaza that would interact at the street level with the interconnections with the urban structure of Nanaimo.
The hotel site has a real opportunity to create a connection between commercial and the waterfront in terms of creating sort of a cohesive streetscape, and also in terms of creating sort of an attractor that draws you from one location to the other. You can identify that something's going on, there's color, there's form that draws you through that connecting road. The hotel is one part of it, but a lot of it is actually sort of the public realm, connecting people between those two sites and also connecting people to this incredible sort of natural feature, which apparently used to be an island, and really having people get excited about this unique feature that's part of the city.
This is a very key site. It's located in the middle of everything downtown. It's between all the other main walkways and streets in downtown Nanaimo. So Gordon Street and Museum Way are on the perimeter of this site, and when we were walking it, we could see that there were vistas beyond to the water and to the downtown street. So while we're waiting for a hotel to come to this location, we think in the meantime the city of Nanaimo should develop it as more of a plaza space, maybe a native peoples kind of gathering place where we can demonstrate the Aboriginal people's culture within Nanaimo, because we think a lot of people come to Nanaimo to see that, and it's not here.
It can be more beautiful, it can be brighter and better lit, it can be more overlooked by the adjacencies, which would make it safer. It could be lit at night. It could have a relationship with the sidewalk nearby instead of being plugged up by the garbage can, the stop sign, and so on. So it can be cleaned up.
Integrate this laneway into the fabric of the city. Try to open up the buildings onto the laneway. Extend the laneway out into Chapel and Commercial by paving that would indicate and bring people up the lane. So we're going to do a Vancouver Island tumbled marble pavers up the laneway that go right out across Chapel and across Skinner Street on the other end. So that's connecting the laneway to the two streets. We want to do more than just activate the laneway at grade. We want to activate the laneway above grade as well by suggesting or making recommendations that the new buildings open up and maybe have balconies that overlook the laneway. For example, as 115 gets redeveloped with potential residential above, that also brings people into the laneway, which means it's safer during the day and during the night, because a lot of people are going to be walking up and down and coming to and from that place. We expect the parking lot in the back to be redeveloped with a building, but with a setback. So the existing lane is about 6 feet wide, and we recommend that the lane extend where it opens up to the parking at the back. It'd be about 20 feet wide, and we can bring in some trees and do some shade rainforest landscaping in the back, which connects the landscape with the Vancouver Island West Coast.
80 architects from across Canada participated in a half-day charrette to produce the images that we put together for the Downtown Nanaimo Business Improvement Association. The hope is that over the years, the Business Improvement Association will be able to find the resources, hopefully working with the city, so that the sites will in fact be redeveloped to reflect the opportunities that have been identified.